Welcome to Mobile on Air, a series of weekly webinars where Google experts will share the latest research, case studies, and best practices on how to build a holistic strategy across mobile web and app. My name is Anna. I am a mobile user experience specialist at Google, and I'm going to take you through our webinars program. So every Tuesday, starting from the 5th of May, there will be a live webinar at 2 p.m. the UK time. Every week, we will discuss a new topic on mobile, starting from best practices in uncertain times, and then covering how to build great experiences across web and app platforms, and finishing up with how modern web technologies can help bridge the gap between the two. Each live stream will consist of roughly 40 minutes of presentations and content, and 20 minutes of live Q&A with Google experts on web, apps, PWA, design, and performance. So be sure you dial in at 2 p.m. the UK time, listen to speakers, and ask your questions. We will be also sharing feedback forms after every live streams. Please let us know what you think. You can also use a Mobile on Air hashtag, so be sure you share your learnings with us on the social media. Our webinars are open to everyone: marketeers, agencies, UX practitioners, designers, developers, so basically everyone who is looking to perform better in mobile. Now, we've got a lot of great content for you today, but first we wanted to acknowledge that we realize that for many of you, these days are not business as usual. All of us continue to adapt to the coronavirus outbreak across the globe, and we understand that today's landscape is creating new challenges for you, your businesses, and your customers. And while the challenges of each of the businesses are unique, we're all being impacted in some way. We wanted to let you know that we are here for you, and you can find more information on how Google is trying to help by visiting our company blog at blog.google. Also, many of you have reached out to let us know that this type of training comes at a crucial time, a time when you are striving to be helpful and relevant to your customers. And with this in mind, we will continue to work hard to provide you with the content and insights you need to help your businesses and your customers in the future. Now, that's it from me. I want to thank you and say I'm really looking forward to these exciting weeks with you. I'm now going to hand it over to our first speaker. Please prepare your questions for the end of the presentation.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar Mobile on Air. My name is Katja, and I am Mobile UX and Conversion Specialist in Google. I have been in Google for the past 4 years, and before that I lived and worked in Berlin, where I was doing graphic design and social media for various startups. Today I will be presenting to you the design principles for communication in uncertain times. I will then pass it over to my colleague Philip, who will be presenting to you the performance principles also in uncertain times. This content came together within the past 2 months. However, a lot of it also is years of experience of our mobile specialist team. I will be presenting now for about 18 minutes, and afterwards Philip will take the next 15. And in the end, we will have live Q&A. So please do submit your questions in the chat, and we will do our best to answer those. Designing for disruption. This project was started about 2 months ago, when several travel and retail clients reached out to us for support. So we knew that they need us more than ever. We work really hard to research, analyze, and brainstorm with our team to put this content together. This is a new challenge for all of us. However, what I'm going to be presenting to you today is visual, aspirational examples of travel and retail, but they can be applied to any industry and also in any crisis time. So why do we do this? Why do we need to communicate with our users during the crisis times? It is important to stay active and proactive with our users during uncertain times because we cannot leave them hanging in the air. we need to make sure that we are here for them. We need to ease out their uncertainties, and we need to make sure we are answering their questions instead of building more questions for them. And also, we got used to finding all the answers on the internet these days. So make sure that you're using all your digital powers to use all the digital channels available to you to communicate to your users. Some key things to consider when we're talking about communication with our users during the uncertain times. First of all, we need to have a plan in place. But because things change from day to day, and the situation that we saw about a month ago is quite different from what we see now, the plan needs to be quite flexible, so we can adapt to the changes. Try to remember to keep your website alive if it's possible, and avoid the dead ends for your users. In any user journey, we need to provide a solution for our users. And I will show you an example in a few slides. Remember that communication is key, and we need to stay empathetic and understanding at all times. We need to find the right balance for our audience. We cannot be either too cold or overly emotional. It just needs to be the right tone for your audience. Make sure that you utilize all channels that are available to you, and not only your website. Also ask your users, how can you help them? And collect feedback in real time. Make sure that the help that you're providing is actually helpful. Now I will walk you through 3 design principles. First one is color. During the communication, we need to remember to use the calm colors like green or blue, and leave the red for error messages or CTAs, if this is your branding color. But it needs to be a visible message. It needs to have a high contrast between the text and the background, so it is noticeable. Tone. Remember to choose the words wisely, because this is how you set up the tone. Remember to be positive, calm, and also if you do refer to any resources, make sure that they are credible. Your message needs to be informative. It needs to be positive, and it needs to be accessible. It needs to be informative. It needs to be answering the concerns of your users. Information banner. Information banner is a layover that we see on a homepage or landing page. We use information banners for communicating some key business changes. In the example on the screen, you can see a yellow banner. This is the color that we are all familiar with. It is specific to a certain situation. So you may want to pick that color just for fast recognition for your users. But it's also absolutely fine if you're using your branding colors. Just like I mentioned before, make sure there is a high contrast between the background and the text. And talking about text, make sure it's readable and accessible for all users. We, as Google, recommend not going below 12 pixels. I usually also say that depending on the font type, go with 14, just to be on the safe side. If you have several points to communicate, make sure that you create for the scanning eye, which means try to use bullet points. And you may also want to consider using icons, because the visual content always helps with perception. 2 more important things about the banner. First one, make sure it's closable. Second, make sure you link your banner to more information. Either provide a hyperlink or a CTA. Communication style. As I mentioned briefly, we need to be empathetic, but we also need to be considerate, transparent, and helpful. And what that means is that if we are providing a message, we need to be very clear about what we're trying to say. Are we actually answering the user's question? So the example on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, we can see that the physical store is talking about the extended working hours. And we are also explaining why we're doing this. We say that we are hoping that our clients will queue less. This way, we are being transparent and we are being helpful. This is the very important time when we need to build a stronger community. We need to stay connected with our users. If your website is not operating, if your business processes are paused for the moment, try to communicate about your community initiatives. Remember to use the language that is understandable to your audience. What we've seen within the past 2 months, a lot of companies using hashtags. Things like far apart but still together, far apart but coming back together even stronger. These are all great ideas. And another great idea is providing your links to the social media. This way you can stay connected to your audience through other platforms. Creativity, part of your brand. Try to use hero campaigns or categories to express care. You see 2 examples on the slide where we are using the hero campaign to communicate about the items that we think will be useful for our users while they're staying at home. Try to delight your users with small things. It's not the right time to aggressively promote a certain item. However, it's very important to try and show the care, consideration, and that you're thinking about your users. So in these examples, we are offering some electronics, desk and a chair that we think might be useful. You may also want to show some categories that could delight your users. For example, products to relax after work. Don't forget to use your value proposition. You can try and say that you are not operating offline now, but you are still operating online. Allow your users to stay connected and shop with you at all times. If you're travel, you may want to say that users can book with you now, but perhaps they can change the flight date later. Show them that you are flexible. Show that you are considerate. And if you do donations, this is great. Try to speak about it out loud. Don't be shy about it. Say your users that you are donating, how much you are donating, and for whom you are donating, and link it to the organization. For social proof reasons, you may want to also expose the amount of money that was already donated. This should encourage more users to shop with you and feel good about it. For some big changes, we need to think of bigger solutions. If your resources allow, try to think how you can strengthen your business systems and how you can ease it out for your users, how to make the shopping experience more effective. On the slide, you see that we are offering an online queue. This way, we are managing the customer flow. We are explaining how it works, and we have the visual representation of the progress bar. So we are telling our users that they will have to queue for about 18 minutes. We also tell them not to close the window. But so that they don't wander away, we allow them to browse the content. And when the time comes to purchase, we also notify them. We allow them to either proceed to the cart or keep shopping with us. Another example here, and another way how to manage your traffic. You may want to consider using a slot system. This is another complex system to build, so it needs to be self-explanatory. You need to make sure that it's intuitive and that it does not require too much action from your users. Also, always keep in mind the accessibility. Make sure it's easy to tap. Keep in mind all your users. Now let's talk about limited stock. Limited stock is something that is great to reflect in real time. If it's technically possible, tell your users that only a few items left. For this, you can either consider using a fast sorting tag in stock. This way users can sort out the items and view only those that are currently available. Or they can also see some labels that say either a few items left or the items completely sold out. And what we need to avoid is clicking on the item and progressing to the PDP and finding out only then that the item is not available. Notifications. So if you are being shared a link to a PDP, but by the time you open it, the item is gone, the good user experience would be to allow users to sign up for personalized notifications for the time when the item becomes available again. For travel, you may want to offer some notifications for a specific route, for flight cancellation, policy changes, or perhaps travel ban. We need to remember to keep our users updated about what it matters the most and when it matters the most. Newsletter. And it goes without saying that we always need to explain why to sign up for the newsletter, what the user will get from the newsletter. So remember that in uncertain times, this is a great way to keep your users updated about your business operations. So make sure to mention that. FAQ and Help Center articles. This is probably one of the most important parts of your website during the communication. So the banner should be linked to more information, like I mentioned in the beginning. So when we're proceeding to more information, this is either an updated FAQ page or this is a completely new build Help Center article. Whichever way you're going, make sure that it's easy to find this information and it's also easy to navigate. So let's have a look how we can do that. The two examples you see on the screen right now, having slightly two different UIs. The first one on the left with yellow information buckets offer you to proceed to a certain information category, say travel ban. The example in the middle uses progressive disclosure, which means we're seeing headers, and by tapping those, we see the subcategories. And then when we tap those, we proceed to more information. And if you remember, in the very beginning, I told you to collect feedback in real time. So this is how you can do it. If you're providing new piece of article, try to ask a simple question to the user. Was this article helpful? Yes or no? This way, you can improve the article that you just created and optimize it if it needed. We will be providing to you the links to both playbooks, travel and retail. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Philip Kriegel. I've been working at Google for the last 2.5 years as a mobile specialist engineer, focused on helping customers make their sites faster in order to improve their user experience. I do that by recommending web development best practices and by helping clients adopt the latest and greatest web technology. More recently, I've been doing so from the comfort of my own home, which is where I presume most of you are tuning in from. I've slowly but surely learned how to cook, which has enabled me to binge food and TV at the same time. As I've relied more and more on online experiences for entertainment, fitness, education, and recipes, I've become much more appreciative of the sites and experiences that work effortlessly in times when I know that they're serving more users than ever. On the flip side, I've become much more aware of experiences that do not pass that bar. Today, I'm going to speak to you about the impact that recent events have had on internet usage and bandwidth. Then, we'll discuss the optimizations that you can make to ensure that you are always able to serve your users, both during uncertain times and anytime. First, we'll take a look at the objective impact that stay-at-home has had on internet usage around the world. It's been no surprise that ever since countries began to implement stay-at-home orders, internet usage has gone up substantially. Whether for entertainment, social connection with loved ones, or work, the internet enables many to keep busy in uncertain times. The number of daily internet users and the amount of time they spend on the internet has likely never been higher worldwide over such a sustained period of time. Under these conditions, it's important to be aware of the impact that this can have on internet bandwidth. Fastly, a CDN provider, reported on their blog that in Italy, during the period between February 18th and March 31st, traffic to their servers spiked by over 109%, and download speeds dropped by 35%. Maybe you've noticed it, maybe you haven't, but it is happening. The internet is slower now than it was in January. However, the internet continues to serve people, and even though the experience may not be as fast or as optimal for some, actual loss of internet connectivity doesn't appear to be a pressing problem. So, why does this matter? It's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it, right? Well, not exactly. Certain sites, in particular some large social media networks and streaming services, still have fast, performant experiences, even on a slow connection. Even if you aren't competing directly against them, users won't reserve judgment for your load time based on your business model. When things don't work, the frustration a user might feel is more likely to be directed at what they're trying to load, even if it isn't actually your fault. During the early days of the pandemic, companies sought to reassure their users of the reliability of their product and services. Given the degradation of internet speeds around the world, it's also important to extend this reliability to your site. So, in order to prevent your site from compounding on this issue, let's take a look at some optimizations that should be relatively quick for you to implement on your site. First up is CDN optimization. Many sites, including most likely yours, utilize a CDN to serve some proportion of their assets. Whether being used for images or for the entire site, check your CDN provider, such as Google Cloud CDN, AWS, Akamai, or Cloudflare for toggleable optimizations. Automatic minification, compression, and image resizing can all play a role in reducing your site's footprint, resulting in a faster experience for users. Images can also be reduced, cropped, or compressed on the fly versus having to be managed on your web server, which also saves time making and adjusting creatives. As a disclaimer, these sorts of changes aren't going to take a site from being slow to suddenly fast, but in concert with other optimizations, it certainly has an impact, while being very easy to switch on and try out. Next, let's take a look at caching. No matter how fast a user's connection is, nothing is faster than a phone's cache. If you intelligently store content on the user's cache, you can limit the number of requests that you're making when they return to your site. Effective use of e-tags and cache control headers will reduce the number and size of requests even further. Caching logos and the shell of your site are all recommended strategies. This will make your site significantly faster when users come back to your site. While caching can get you a lot of savings, you still have to download the initial resources. Everything you download to a page has a cost, both in terms of bandwidth and render time. With compression, you can reduce that cost substantially. Text in particular can really add up, since it might make up the majority of your resources, if not the majority of your page weight. All of the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS that you download is text after all. Compressing and minifying a single text file might not result in huge savings on its own, but over dozens or even hundreds of requests, it can certainly have an impact. There really isn't a reason not to compress your text files. Images are a little more tricky. Different formats and sizes make the most sense in different situations. PNGs make the most sense for your icons, while JPEGs are best for complex image, such as this cute red panda. JPEG quality reductions frequently result in a higher reduction in size. As you can see here, a 75% reduction in image quality corresponded to a 90% decrease in size. While it might be a bit hard to see over video, I promise that the difference between these two images is nearly imperceptible on a mobile phone. As my roommates are sure to tell you, it's a lot easier to make a mess than it is to clean it up. This is especially true of dishes, but also CSS, JavaScript, and tag managers. Generally, when a new feature or style or tag needs to get added, it gets added with little thought given to what might need to be taken out. As a result, over time, files get bloated and tag managers get filled with tags sending information to no one. However, this unused code still gets downloaded and parsed, taking up valuable cycles. Take this time as an opportunity to clean up your house, remove deprecated code, audit your tag manager, tree shake your CSS, and in general, tidy up. The coverage tool in Chrome is especially useful at showing you what code is actually being used on any given page load. Next, let's take a look at font optimization. Avoiding font issues is critical. The dreaded flash of unstyled or invisible text not only serves as a delay for the user being able to read your text, but also, to be frank, it's super janky. It just doesn't look or feel good. Luckily, there are two good ways to avoid this. On most modern browsers, such as Chrome, the CSS font display property supports the swap and optional attributes. Swap will show an appropriate system font on the user's device, and then swap in the font once it gets loaded. Optional abandons the custom font if it doesn't load in time. The same behavior can be emulated in older browsers, using the Font Face Observer JavaScript library. Overall, while fonts are important for your branding, it's important to realize that users should be able to see the text content on a page as quickly as possible. Consider using system fonts for important parts of your page, such as alerts or banners. Finally, let's discuss A/B testing. A/B testing tools often use a DOM hiding Flickr snippet to conduct tests on the client side. This is done to keep the page hidden while elements are swapped in the background. Consider disabling this because it can impact render time. In addition, anytime that you're not running tests, disabling your test framework can also improve render times, making sites more predictable to users and freeing up experimentation resources. When running A/B tests, always consider the C test, which is simply not loading the A/B testing library whatsoever and seeing what sort of an impact that has. While more complex, if possible, render A/B tests on the server side to avoid hiding already loaded page content from users. Everything that we just covered are changes and adaptations that should be relatively simple for you to start working with. Each individual change isn't a world changer, but everything does add up and can have a meaningful impact on performance. Next, we're going to take a look at some stretch goals that might be worth undertaking during this time. The following optimizations will take more time to implement, but I can assure you that they're worth it and go a long way towards helping you facilitate user intent. The first thing I'd like to discuss is an offline mode. With the current state of web technology, you don't even need a connection in order to render something for your users in the browser. If a returning user loses their connection, your site can still provide them with important information using an offline mode powered by a service worker. Updated hours, phone numbers, and other relevant details can be cached and presented to a user at any time and under any network conditions. Oftentimes, phone service is still available when mobile internet isn't. So providing a phone number means that being offline isn't going to stop a potential conversion or a call to customer support. Offline modes make an immediate positive impression and simply serve as a practical utility. For users who don't realize that they're offline, it's a reminder. For users who can't get online, it shows incredible availability and service on your part. Next, let's quickly talk about lazy loading. When we load any page, we want to prioritize the above the fold content. Obviously, what's above the fold is what should be immediately relevant to users arriving at the page. Slowing down the experience and using up resources in order to load content and image below the fold is clearly not a good user experience. Ultimately, as with an offline mode, what we want to do is to facilitate the user's intent. If they scroll down, we can start loading images and content appropriately. If they arrive at your site with the intent to log in, click on the hero image, or use the search bar at the top of the page, we don't want to waste their time by loading things below the fold. As an aside, you should also take a look at your homepage or landing pages and maybe measure their height, perhaps in phone screens and then maybe even in feet. There are certain pages that I've worked with that I lovingly refer to as skyscrapers, pages that require quite literally 5 to 6 feet of scrolling for you to read their entire contents. If we're trying to prioritize the prime real estate at the top of the page, we don't want to jeopardize that with information that nobody's going to read 5 feet down the page. Continuing with the theme of facilitating user intent, we arrive at navigation prefetch. This is an extremely useful technique that greases the wheels, so to speak, of your website. In most modern browsers, there is a prefetch cache that you can utilize to store assets, including HTML, in case a user accesses it. If enabled, once the browser has loaded a page and is idle, it'll start to gather resources for pages that a user might navigate to next, using the links on that page. So while a user browses or reads, you're preparing the next navigation to be as quick as possible, since it's already downloaded. You can either decorate resources yourself with the prefetch hint, or use libraries such as QuickLink and Guest.js. QuickLink prefetches links that are visible in the user's window, whereas Guest.js takes it a step further and uses analytics data that you provide in order to make predictions on what users are most likely to click on next. Ultimately, you are enabling smoother navigation for your users and facilitating their intent as effectively as possible. To conclude, let's take a look at the initial set of optimizations that I covered. All of these are things that you should be doing already, but now is as good a time to start as any. These optimizations should be quick to implement, and will have an immediate impact on your site's reliability and speed. Advanced optimizations will require more effort, but will pay dividends now and into the future, as users reward you for facilitating their intent and making your site fast and available under any network condition. There's way more information on all this and more at web.dev/COVID-19 and on web.dev in general that should help you make fast, compelling experiences for your user. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.